Hey everyone, welcome to Everything in Moderation, episode 5.
What up, y'all? All 20 of you? Do we have 20? Are we at a normal 20 on our videos?
To be honest, we got some good follows on Instagram, to be honest, but not everyone watches.
We'll get them next year. I like talking about this stuff, and none of my roommates will, so.
So Sean, what do we want to talk about today? It's just us two, so we can just make sure this is a quick episode, talk about some random stuff that has occurred.
Well, I guess we'd be remiss if we didn't mention the current events going on right now.
What did you want to hone in on?
Well, there's a couple. Number one, I'd like to say Daddy Trump. 3 days with coronavirus. It's almost like you have a 99.7% chance of being just fine. But I didn't say that. But actually getting serious, the Amy Barrett confirmation hearings, I believe they're called, in the Senate. It seems like she's a very qualified individual, and on the basis of just that, she should absolutely be on the Supreme Court. But I personally don't think she should because she's too conservative and she will swing the balance of the court. And I don't think that that's what the Supreme Court should be. But with these confirmation hearings, it seems like our friends over at, I don't remember what their name is, but they put both like the headlines for
Yes, partial news, great platform. We partnered with them. We always repost their stuff. They give I'll just read their bio. It's a bifocal perspective, highlighting news media bias by comparing liberal and conservative headlines for the same story. They have a website, partialnews.com. I think it's a great platform. He or she does not give any opinions. Literally just states the headline, the conservative headline, liberal headline. It's a good way of looking at it to see which one. It's so funny because you look at it and you're like, just for this topic in particular, Amy Coney Barrett dodges all of Democrats' questions on healthcare abortion. So that was the liberal headline from the Huffington Post. Fox News reported Amy Coney Barrett faces pressure during hearing, responds with grace and poise, experts say. So it's funny how you see two media outlets report the same story, but just completely saw it two different ways. Lately I've been wondering, I'm like, how could you you see this with the debate too. How do people see it like this? How are the comparisons just they're not comparable at all, actually.
I have a liberal friend from home,
Mhm.
and I was talking to him about the debates. I was like, yeah, they both kind of did pretty horrible. Like, I don't think anybody won except maybe them because they got to talk like they like to. And my friend was like, dude, what are you talking about? Like, Joe Biden clearly won the debate. And I was like, yeah, but that's not true. Like, I don't think he won the debate. I mean, I'd say maybe he was a little bit less bad,
Yeah.
but I don't know about. Like, it depends on like your point of view. You're always gonna go. I feel like with those two headlines with Barrett, that both of them are true. She probably didn't answer questions on controversial topics that she is known to be against, because why would she? She doesn't have to. And she probably did answer most of the questions with poise because she's a very good selection if you don't count the fact that she's extremely conservative. She literally, everything she's done in her career is to get her to the Supreme Court. Now, I'm sure that wasn't her point of doing what she did in her career, but everything she has done in her career was a stepping stone to the Supreme Court.
Yeah. I think that if she wasn't qualified, she wouldn't be there.
Yeah.
So
she's too
yeah.
qualified not to confirm.
Yeah. So if you could have your qualms about whether you think she's too conservative or not, but at the end of the day, she's qualified. I guess you could say.
Yeah, she absolutely is. She's a very good jurist. I just think she's a bit biased. But
I think that it's interesting because a lot of people, especially with the timing, and I can totally understand why, they think that like she's just gonna be like a Trump yes woman, basically ruling in the way that he wants. That's that's a concern that a lot of Democrats and liberals have. But what I have a question for you and for every one of our viewers that are listening, and just to think about it, um, how many times does someone have to say that they tell you I have my own mind for them to like stop asking questions about that?
wait,
Okay, so like
say that again.
yeah, so I think it was Coons. It was Senator Coons. Yeah. So she
He's
said,
one
"I
of the Dems, right?
what?"
Is he one of the Dems or the Republicans?
Yeah, he was. He was them.
Okay.
And she said, "I hope that you aren't suggesting that I don't have my own mind, or that I couldn't think independently, or that I would just decide like, let me see what Justice Scalia has said about this in the past."
Okay, so you're saying like people think
How
she's
many
going to
times
be
does she have to
biased?
say that like she's
Okay.
independent?
I mean, I feel like she's gonna have to. I'm not sure she should have to specify that multiple more times, but I am absolutely sure that she is going to have to specify
Yeah.
that quite a few more times. I also don't think she's going to quote unquote be a lackey, but I think more often than not, she's going to lean that way.
That's what I'm saying. I think that the conspiracy that she's going to be a lackey is just kind of overblown. I think that it's just, I just think that that's just drop that. But is she going to lean one way? Absolutely.
Yes.
I'm positive that she is. But is she going to act independently? Yeah. Is she going to?
She's not just going to get told vote this way and then she's just going to vote that way. Like she's going to vote that way because she thinks this is right and she has come to this the same way she has come to every decision she's made in her jurist career.
Exactly. Do you think that this is where things get a little hairy? So some might say that she um, makes decisions based on her own opinions and values. But
She does.
but I'm pretty sure she said, what was it last night? Last night that she just interprets the law in that way. Where is there a way where you can interpret the law very literally without imparting your own biases to it?
I mean, yes, but I wouldn't not say it's not super common, but I feel like it normally just ends up overlapping.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I'm trying to think of a good analogy or example of it. Like with, I guess, like with her, like my personal bias is that she shouldn't be on the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
But my quote unquote interpretation of the law or whatever is that she's a very good jurist and she is extremely qualified for the position and she should be on it.
Yeah.
So like
it's like a head and heart thing.
Yeah. Like I feel like it's supposed to be separate and you try to separate it, but it usually ends up being one or the other.
Do you think that she tries to separate it?
I think she does. And I think even more so than a normal person does, her and anyone else that's a judge has to put aside their personal bias. Like, I know judges, I have an example. I just thought of one. It's like, I know judges don't like the mandatory minimums that are in place. Like, I don't know, I can't remember exactly what they are, but I know like powder cocaine versus crack cocaine. The powder cocaine is like a year's jail time, if that, and crack cocaine is like 10 years minimum. and it's like just blatantly racist. And so judges don't want to enforce that. Like it's not their choice, but they have to because that is the law. Like they have to do the rule of law. They can't put their personal bias into it.
So in that, like, based on what you just said, like their personal bias would be like, well, like crack and cocaine are virtually the same exact thing.
Yeah.
So like, therefore, I'm not going to give this person a extended sentence just because it was crack. And like you said, like it's crack cocaine is used mostly in like the lower income areas, whereas like powder cocaine is used in like rich areas.
Rich preppy.
Yeah, rich preppy. I think just for our viewers, I'm going to pull up this video by the Charles Koch Institute to explain mandatory minimums. Let me just do this real quick.
This is mandatory minimum.
Okay, hold on. Sharing screen. All right. Let me lower this a little bit.
Minimums in 60 seconds. Let's rewind to the 1970s. U.S. crime was rising dramatically and policymakers wanted to do something. Mandatory minimum laws seemed like a good idea. Everyone who committed the same crime would have the same guaranteed sentence. Parole was limited and flexibility was taken from judges. Sentences would always be fair and politicians could get tough on crime. Everybody's happy, right? Well, no, not really. In the 1980s, Congress started creating mandatory sentences for all sorts of crimes, including drug offenses, and the federal prison population exploded. And the states weren't much better. California passed some of the most notorious mandatory sentences, and its prison population soared. We all want to be safe, but automatically locking up nonviolent people for years won't get us there. Think about this 21-year-old in Florida. State law says we'll spend 3 years in prison. That doesn't make us safer. But there's a solution. Don't let politicians become judge, jury, and executioner. Let judges do their jobs and choose a fair sentence to fit each unique crime.
So, based on your resounding hand gestures, I would assume that you'd prefer it to be on case-by-case basis.
Well, first of all, I think mandatory minimums are racist.
Yeah.
So that in and of itself should be a good enough reason.
Yeah.
Number two, politicians should have nothing to do with sentencing. Number three, if someone has gone through the years of undergrad and law school and served their time as a lawyer, gotten a good enough record that they can be made into a judge at whatever level, how do you tell them that they don't know what they're doing and politicians know better?
That's a fabulous point, actually.
The judges should be in charge of sentencing for every single crime because they can take things into account that a mandatory minimum cannot.
Do you think that if they were, it was individual, there would be less people in prison for like non-violent offenses?
Well, yes, I do.
Yeah.
I don't think people would be getting thrown in jail for having weed or crack or I'm trying to think of another one, heroin. Well, actually, that one's kind of bad. Not heroin.
Stay away from.
Actually, no. We shouldn't be putting people in jail for drugs, unless
it should be rehab.
If you're distributing a shitload of a lot of drugs, like if you are a supplier, then you should go to jail.
Yeah,
if you're just someone who is torching up or shooting up. That's what I was looking for. Shooting up or smoking up, you shouldn't be going to jail.
I agree with that. So I wanted to we're going to like totally different stage here, but I attended a conference last night with Jason Furman and Douglas Holtz-Eakin. They're two prominent economists. Jason Furman served under Obama in the Council of Economic Advisors, right? So he was the chair. He spent a lot of time with Obama and Joe Biden, actually. He actually gave some first account information about Joe that I feel could be very valuable.
Hey, according to Joe Biden, he had a great economy, so this guy must know what he's talking about.
And then Douglas Holtz-Eakin was John McCain's economic policy advisor in 2008. So,
Bro, I miss John McCain. We need John McCain back.
all
John
right.
McCain was a Republican who would say, "This doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to vote with you."
Remember the thumbs down thing? Remember he did that?
We need John McCain back. We need to run him back.
To be honest,
Somebody's got to figure out how to bring people back from the dead.
before we get into into what I took away from this, what bearing do you think the military has on creating a sound politician / leader?
I think it teaches you discipline, which is important. You definitely need that if you're going to be a politician. Not for the reasons that they actually use it for, which is to be politicians, but for the reasons they should be using it for, to keep all their stuff in order and do the right thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I'd say like definitely discipline. And also, if you are going to have aspirations of higher political office like the presidency, or you want to get on the military affairs, I think it is, the military committee. I forget exactly what their title is in the Senate. Like if you're going to be on one of the big foreign relations committees, or you want to be the president, I think you definitely need the background to at least understand what is going on and what you're going to be in charge of. So, I mean, like, I wouldn't say it's a necessity if you're just going to be a congressman or a random senator. Like, then just do what you think is right.
I think most importantly, too, is that it basically, it teaches you how to leading people.
Well, it depends how ranked you are.
Yeah, of course. Senator McCain was pretty. Let me get this right.
I know he got captured, which is
he was captured, right? In Vietnam. Yeah.
They did some nasty things to our prisoners, and that boy walked away like it was nothing.
He was in the U.S. Navy. He was a captain.
Yeah. So
he
learned how to lead.
Yeah. So he was in a position of leadership.
Yeah.
Back to everything that I found.
To talk about before Sean brought us off topic.
So now I'm going to talk about the what I found. It was very interesting. The two men had a lot to say, and it's pretty clear to see that they were not of the same political ideology, but in most economic matters they agreed, which I find pretty interesting. I think that's because in terms of economics, the Democrats and the Republicans sort of have a similar view, minus the whole taxes thing. Democrats, I don't know. It's hard, but
yes, but no.
Yeah, there were things that they disagreed with, totally, but just basically the first question was about federal debt growth and how the virus has affected it, and Douglas said that interest rates will remain lower, but we will come out with more debt. We have not stabilized the GDP debt rate in the 21st century. So, and then Jason resounded off of that and said, we don't have to worry about the debt right now. Deficit reduction should not be a priority for either candidate, whoever's in office by November. He said that we will have to look at Social Security and possibly raise Social Security taxes. And then Douglas said, majority of people don't want people to touch Social Security. Thoughts on that, if any?
That ain't it, Chief.
On what?
Social Security. I don't want more of my money going into a garbage program. Not to say that it is completely garbage, but by the time I'm going to benefit from it, it's going to be a very bankrupted program that I will just have paid into for no reason. Or not no reason, like helping my grandparents. I love them.
Yeah.
Like that's good. But it won't help me when the time comes.
Yeah. The next. Yep. Sorry. Go ahead.
I would also say I don't honestly think either candidate is going to do anything for deficit reduction, which is kind of a crime for Donald Trump because he's a Republican and they're supposed to be all about deficit reduction. He's very good at boosting our economy. He's just very bad at not bringing us more into debt. Like he should do something about that as a Republican, just in general. Joe Biden, I really don't expect to do anything about the deficit. In fact, I expect him to drop it through the roof with all these programs he wants to implement. But
that's a concern, definitely. I think that there is some sort of. Was there something about this? Well, actually, I'm gonna get to that. What you actually said was interesting. Jason actually mentioned. Yeah, Jason actually mentioned something like later in the conference that actually kind of made me think about like how things go. The next question though was, how was your view on what the Federal Reserve has been doing? So Jason said the Federal Reserve has done very well in their response. They are better at stabilizing Wall Street, not Main Street, because they have limited resources. Then bear in mind, just anyone listening, these are notes that I took. So obviously I cannot capture everything that each man said, but I tried to get the main idea of each one. Douglas said the Federal Reserve was fantastic in its response. The bulk of the problems lie with the Treasury, and he worries about bubbles, not inflation. Thoughts on that?
Well, I'm not going to lie. I can't really say that I know too much about either Treasury or the Federal Reserve. But I believe you were talking about coronavirus and obviously stabilizing Main Street means the whole thing. I don't think that there should have been any stimulus checks at all. So I did not like that we got driven more into debt for fun.
Why do you think that we shouldn't have had stimulus checks? Sean just guessed.
Did you say why do I think we shouldn't have had stimulus checks?
Yeah.
Because the entire world was shut down. What did you need money for? And I say this with the mindset that landlords did not need money from people, so they shouldn't have been charging rent. Banks did not need money, and they knew people were struggling. They did not need to charge them their mortgage for the month. Like, we knew what was going on. Mm-hmm. It wasn't like it was a secret. Everybody knew. Nobody should have been getting charged for these things. Like, they were essential services. Like, are you going to kick someone out of their house in the middle of a pandemic so they live on the street and get the disease that everyone's worried about getting? Like, come on. So I think that it should have been suspended a lot more, like with rent and utilities should have been, like, these companies have a lot of money. Like, obviously, if they just pay for everything, they go bankrupt real quick. Mm-hmm. But they could have done reduced rates, and the government should have been, if the government was going to do quote unquote stimulus checks to boost the economy, I think they should have just paid for the services that people needed, and then everyone would have been fine.
I wanted to say, especially,
sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah.
Especially since in the first round, because we haven't even gotten a second round, they're arguing about it, and Nancy Pelosi's job is to say no to Donald Trump. That is literally her job. She does nothing but that. Nancy Pelosi is horrible, and if you are a Democrat and you like her, I'm sorry that your life went that wrong.
Oh my God.
However, Not to say the Democrats are bad, but Nancy Pelosi is bad.
I would probably
at everything.
Yeah.
I don't know how she got elected to public office and how she has managed to stay in public office. She must have dirt on so many people that they just can't get rid of her.
What I wanted to say actually though was with the stimulus checks, you said driving the debt up for fun, right? That's what you said that, yeah. So just to say, my grandpa got a stimulus check. He's been dead for 2 years.
That was my point. They sent them out to dead people, and then they didn't ask for them back.
Yeah, it's totally
like,
my mother sent it back because my dad was like, "No, you better send that back," and then they did. So like, it's just funny because like, come on, man. Like, you could at least check your public records to see if the guy's dead or not.
How do you screw that up? How?
I'm sure that it happened on a pretty,
and also, why the hell was I not entitled to money? Or at the very least, my parents not entitled to money because of me.
Why? What was the reasoning? Or
we never heard an actual reasoning behind why they didn't give it to our age group or why they didn't give it to the people we were dependent on taxes. But what the hell does a 8-year-old need? Like, you're gonna feed them. They're not getting a ton of food. They don't need new clothes during a pandemic. They have I'm sure that they have an electronic, because children these days cannot live without an electronic. I think they would literally curl up into a ball and die without an electronic. So they have one. So you need the money for the high school to college age kids that are going to eat you out of house and home. And that are, not to say that we're the best and the brightest, because we all went out. Don't let anyone lie to you and tell you that they didn't leave their house, because I know 2 people that that's actually true for. It wasn't me. So, we're not the best and the brightest. We went out anyway. So we needed money to go out and buy food, like fast food or whatever we were meeting our friends for, gas and everything else. We were the ones that needed money more than 8 to 10-year-olds. What do 8 to 10-year-olds, what do parents need money for that?
Yeah.
If you're sending your child to a private school as an 8 to 10-year-old, you clearly don't need a stimulus check.
Do you think that, you did say that you mentioned you needed food and stuff. Do you think the stimulus check, what would you have done about food if you didn't? Say that you did receive a stimulus check, right? Some people actually did go out and buy food with their check, right? What would be the rationale for, if you didn't have the stimulus check, how would they pay for their food? Quote unquote.
My age?
Yeah.
Because we were the ones that didn't get it, our age.
Yeah.
I think most of the ones that didn't get it our age were dependents. So I'm not saying we needed it. It would have been nice.
Yeah.
Not that I think we should have sent them out at all, but if we were going to send them out, I want one too.
What about older people?
I think they all qualified for them, so they all got one.
Yeah, but if you said you didn't really want, you preferred to not have it, not have the stimulus check at all. So how would they pay for their food if they weren't working?
If you need $1,200 to survive, I think you have a lot bigger problems than that. You need a lot more help than $1,200 was going to help you.
And this perfectly leads me into my next question. Well, not my next question. The question that was asked in the conference, right? So now we're going to talk about income inequality, baby. So they, moderator per se, asked What is the extent of this problem, and what policies would you favor to mitigate this issue? So Doug said, I am not a fan of punishing rich for success. Lower income people are not economically responsible. We are not doing a good job educating our people about how to be economically sustainable. Until you fix that problem, inequality amongst wealth won't be fixed. Jason said, we also need to educate our people better. We need a more progressive fiscal system where we focus on tax credits rather than taxing the rich more heavily. And then Doug said, our social safety net should be pro-work. We shouldn't raise minimum wage, and there does not in that we shouldn't raise minimum wage because that does nothing for job growth.
You're damn right.
The young generation, but he did say the young generation wants paid leave, and that's not an unreasonable request, but you have to find funding for it.
What do you mean by paid leave? Like for what?
Like from work, like paid like vacation days, maternity and paternity leave.
All right, maternity leave I agree with.
Yeah.
And I think you get a certain amount of vacation days that you get paid for anyway.
Yes. It's most cases of that.
Like I don't have a problem with that. But if you just decide I'm not going into work today, then no, you shouldn't be paid for it. Although let me rephrase all of this by saying maternity leave should be a thing across any job, whether it's hourly or salary.
Without a doubt.
That is a thing. You should have maternity leave. You're pushing a child out. You can have maternity leave. Like you deserve it. So, I don't know who decided that you shouldn't get it, but you should push something through them.
Well, I think that maternity leave is probably largely integrated in most workforces, but I'm not sure about
Well, it's also very short. It should be longer.
Yeah.
Like they do need more time.
Exactly.
Especially like it takes, by the time you get into your rhythm with the child and once it's home, it's basically time to turn around and start figuring out who's going to be taking care of this child for you.
Yeah.
And like that's not enough time. You need to give them more time.
So I wanted to just hone in on the one thing that Doug said, where you cannot solve income inequality without educating the lower income communities about how to be economically sustainable.
I don't know if I necessarily say that what was the way you put it? Like people that don't make as much money?
Lower income community?
The lower income community. I wouldn't necessarily say that they are quote unquote bad with money. Like yeah. I wouldn't say they're good with money, but not all of them are bad with money. They just don't earn enough money.
Yeah, I agree.
But I would 100% agree with the fact that there needs to be more financial education in this country. Like, why do I need to know the Pythagorean theorem, which I have not used since 8th grade? I know it's a squared plus b squared equals c squared, and that might be the only thing I remember from the last 8 years of math that I have learned. My brother asked me for help on homework the other day, and I was like, yeah, no, you got to look that up. I don't even know where to start. I don't remember any of this. So, like, why not teach people how to balance a checkbook, what the stock market is, how to use the stock market, how to save money and put it in. I don't even know if I'd put it in a savings account. Those kind of suck because they don't rise with inflation. So I'd put it in, I forget what they're called. It's something else. It's not a savings account, but like it's supposed to rise with inflation. The interest rate rises with inflation, whereas savings accounts don't. So and that's another thing. Like most people don't even know that's a thing. Like you need to teach them that the interest rate versus the I just said it. I'm brain farting so hard today. I've done too much homework. The inflation. Like people don't even know that the inflation rate is so much higher than the interest rate on a bunch of different things, and they put their money into it thinking they're going to be fine, and they're not fine because they were never told any differently. So there definitely needs to be better financial education in this country, just at every level.
I definitely agree with that. You gave a couple fist pumps when Doug said our social safety net should be pro-work and that we shouldn't raise minimum wage.
I do not think minimum wage should be raised. I think that people want more money to do work that is not worth the money they are asking for. Not to say that having a minimum wage job is a bad thing. Like, it's a great thing. But you know who it's a great thing for? Kids. If you are 40 years old and you are working at McDonald's for minimum wage, you better have a second job, because the minimum wage was never meant to be something to live off of. Or if you are going to live off it, you cannot expect to have the same quality of life that other people are going to have. You can't try to live like you're making $100,000 a year when you're making minimum wage. You need to live a different way. You can't just complain that you can't live like an $100,000 a year income person, because they have more skills than you do. They should be getting paid more than you. So either switch up how you're living, get a second job, or educate yourself and get the skill you need. Like, pick a skill. It's the internet. Everybody has access to the internet. And in today's day and age, it is so easy to learn new things. Like, obviously, it takes a lot of effort, but you have the access to learn new skills, to improve your skill set and get a higher paying job. So if you don't do it, that's on you.
I just wanna. Okay, so it's still about income inequality, right? I didn't say the last thing that Jason said, and it was going back to that point you made earlier, the one about like Donald Trump and like the economy, like Joe Biden, like not doing anything for the economy, right?
Mm-hmm.
So bear in mind, Jason is a Democrat, mind you, and Doug is a Republican. Obviously, you could tell by his stance on income inequality that, yeah. But it was interesting to see how Jason said that we shouldn't what was it? Shouldn't punish the rich too. He agreed with that. But Jason did say we overstate the effect a president has on the economy, especially in such a short time.
Yes.
I think that was a resounding yes for me, because when you look at it, I would think that just policy in general, it's not. Who knows? You don't really know like the effect too much.
I definitely agree with that. However, I also think that presidents have a lot of pull most of the time, as long as they're decently well liked. They have a lot of pull with the policies that are going into place in Congress and the Senate. So, and obviously, nobody has to do what the president says. But if the president of the United States is well liked or even decently liked, and they ask you to do something, you're going to do it. Like, you're not going to say no to the president of the United States unless you're just vehemently against it or you don't like them.
Well, I mean, you could say no just because you might have a better solution, and then for that you could talk about it.
Well, that's true.
Yeah,
I didn't think of that. That's a good caveat to add.
So I actually, just going off of that, I wanted to go about Jason's experience with Joe Biden. I thought that was pretty interesting. He said that the moderator asked how Joe Biden's economic grasp is.
Mm-hmm.
And Jason said he's very inquisitive and wants to listen. I came into the office many days and spent a lot of time with him. And he asks a lot of questions. take that as you will. I think that that's a good thing. It's important to ask questions. I think that
How much of it does he remember? I would ask. Not even because he's Joe Biden and he's old. Just in general, economics is kind of hard.
it's a lot of stuff to take in. Even when I was like writing these notes last night, I was like, oh my God. But
Yeah, like it's just hard. Forget
it is hard to grasp unless like you're literally looking and studying every single day. But
exactly.
I just want to get into the last two questions real quick. The next question was, has immigration hurt the lower class? That was something I like. That question actually kind of struck me because I never really thought about that. So Jason said, expand immigration, bring in more talent, innovate, and Trump's longest term damage will be scaring workers away from America. You can tighten up the border, but don't do that when you're barring more immigrants from coming in. Doug said, immigration is so important. We hand out less than 5% of permanent work visas, which is detrimental to our economy and sells us short.
I mean, I definitely agree. I think there are obviously security concerns and other concerns that I can't think of off the top of my head.
I think that this was more about like actual legal immigration. I don't think we have to talk about like illegal immigration at this point, but
no, I'm just saying like for immigration in general.
Yeah.
Like obviously, I'm just saying like obviously there are security concerns and other types of concerns that you do have to take into account. But America was a country that was based on the fact that you can come here and get a better life. And the point of this country is that we are free.
Mhm.
You're allowed to do whatever religion you want. You can believe in whatever you want. You can do whatever you want, like within reason. You can do whatever you want. So we should be letting people in. We are a melting pot for the world. Like nobody's like American.
Yeah.
You're like, I'm Irish. I'm like, obviously I'm American, but I'm Irish.
Yeah.
Like we are a melting pot from all over the world. You can't keep people out just because. And to the people that say that immigrants are taking our jobs and everything, first of all, shut your mouth. Shut your mouth. Second of all, the jobs that they take most of the time, obviously, it's not all of them because we don't deal in absolutes, everything in moderation. The jobs that they are taking are not jobs that you want. And by you, I mean like the people that are complaining.
Yeah.
Immigrants are taking their jobs. Like they're not jobs that you're going to work. They're doing the jobs that no one else wants to do. Like, are you going to go stand out in a field and pick blueberries and strawberries and stuff all day in a hot field? Like, I don't want to do that. I'd burn so bad. I'd either have to get like 1,000 SPF sunscreen and reapply it every like 30 minutes, or I would die.
Going off of that, I actually urge people to watch this documentary called A Day Without Mexicans. Basically, it's like it's a 2004 film. It was a mockumentary. It was based in California, and at the time, and probably still true today, Mexicans represent a third of the state's population inexplicably disappear, and then they just see like how like California just plunges into despair, like when they're gone.
If you got rid of any ethnic group, you would screw everyone.
Yeah, agree.
You can't just do that.
No.
Doesn't matter if you like them. They are essential
Yeah.
to our entire economy. So I have absolutely no pity and quite a few harsh feelings towards the people that don't like immigrants. Like, come on.
I'm a big immigrant guy. I think that it allows the United States to innovate itself, acquire new talent, like Jason said, and if you want to look at it in a competitive standpoint, then the country that they're coming from doesn't have that talent anymore. Go off of like sports, right? You're acquiring a player from another team that is working against you almost. So like, why not get him or her over here, and then give them a place in society where they could share their knowledge and do their thing. I want to just cover the last question, and I swear to God, this was phrased just like this: China, should we be concerned? So, Doug said there's a good consensus that China is a national security rival, and that we should persecute them on human rights and their economic acting has broken so many rules. Trump made it a bilateral approach when it should be a multilateral approach. Manufacturing everything in the U.S. is not the way to go. Look elsewhere for manufacturing. And then Jason agreed and resounded off of that point. He said Trump's approach to China failed. Work with our allies. No trade wars. Work with Germany and Mexico against China. Working with allies will push China to become a more market-based economy.
So I 100% agree with what the last person said.
Yes.
You can't do it by yourself when they are a global superpower who owns like 70% of your debt. You can't do it. That's just not how the world or economics or common sense works. Like, you do need to involve the allies. And I agree with part of what the first person said. I'm not so sure. I'd say don't bring all the jobs to America. However, I understand that's unrealistic. And obviously, they're going to do it in other countries, which is fine. Companies need to make money. I would, at the caveat, I wouldn't say they can go to any country. Like, I'd prefer they go to one where there are labor laws.
So I think that's sort of what Jason was getting at, was where like if you outsource jobs to Germany and Mexico, for example, you could, one, bolster their economies while also bolstering the companies that work here, which in turn bolster our economy.
Exactly.
Therefore, creating like, you just created and made stronger 3 different economies that are rivals to China.
But God forbid we help someone that isn't ourselves.
God forbid.
Might strike us down.
So, I mean, I know they're not going to see this, but I really appreciate that 2 of the America's finest economists came to speak to us last night. I thought it was very interesting, and I do bemoan the fact that we couldn't have been there in person, but still, it was great to have them share their knowledge. I do want to.
Kind of jealous that you guys got those people there.
I mean, hey, you could have sat in too, buddy.
That's not true. I was working on a paper. We love schoolwork.
Yeah, that's where the other 2 boys are right now.
Schoolwork. No, no, that is where they are constantly.
Yeah.
They don't do anything else. They do schoolwork. Their life is wake up, maybe eat, schoolwork, hit the gym, definitely eat, study a little bit more, go to bed. So like,
and record the podcasts on whatever day we record them.
Every once in a while.
Yes. I just trying to make.
They are in big boy school, so we understand.
But as always, the show will go on, even if it's just myself. I will give a little monologue because this means a great deal to me. So, I will continue no matter.
My co-star looks hella cute.
What?
So my co-star looks hella cute.
Right back at you. So I did want to make an announcement. So I'm very happy to announce that we are in the working of creating an international version of the podcast, which would include covering and reporting of international issues. Um, we're still looking to acquire some, like, a cast. We're constantly looking. I've been, like, sort of interviewing people that were interested. We have two members so far that I think are pretty interested. So I'm excited to get those episodes out to you guys, probably by next month. I think that it's a great opportunity to learn more about international politics as a whole, because a lot of it is, we think that it's just America, but there's so much going on that affects us in so many different ways. So that's why we want to get a cast that encompasses every possible region that we could do, even if they are, like, from that region, or they just simply have an interest and have an expertise in that region, obviously. And if anyone's listening, give me a call if you're interested.
I think it's crazy that, like, how many Americans really don't know anything about the rest of the world. They only know about America.
Yeah.
Like, it's kind of crazy. Like, what the hell are we teaching our children?
On that,
pregnancies out here.
What?
No pregnancies out here. Not yet. Not another decade.
On that last note, though, I also wanted to announce that this is actually, like, concrete, and we will be churning these out every so often. We're going to have an interview edition where we will have interviews with people on certain topics of our choosing. It could just be one-on-one, two-on-one, whoever's available to sit in on the interview and ask questions. But we will be posting those in full so that everyone could watch an expert in their field or whatever talk about something they're qualified to talk about. Now, with that being said, we are not experts on anything that we're talking about. We do have things that we do have things that we are knowledgeable about. That's for certain. We're not dummies, but we never claim that we're geniuses. But obviously with this, we're trying to adapt their thinking and constantly learn more. So this is a learning experience for us too, as much as it is for everyone watching. Sean, do you have anything else to say?
We love learning here. And if you ever hear me call myself a genius, you should just turn around and walk away.
Just put a comment in the, if you got this far, drop a comment in the comment section that says #Sean's a genius.
We love a good Sean's a genius hashtag. We love spouting off things that are not true.
All right, buddy. You want anything else to say or no?
Thanks for listening. Sorry we only got 2 people in this week, but like I said, the other boys, they're in big boy school. So they're big shots now.
Let's go. We're very, very happy and support them.
We're still in little boy school. We're trying to finish out.
It's true. All right. See y'all.
Bye.
Have a good week.